Claire stood at the center of the crowded hallway, her voice sharp, eyes cold as they settled on Lily. The laughter around her felt hollow, but she fed off it, masking her insecurities with each taunt. Lily's quiet eyes met hers not with anger but with an almost unbearable patience. Claire's chest tightened, but she shoved it away. This was her world, and she couldn't afford to look weak. "Get out of my way, Lily," she snapped, feeling the twinge of something deeper, almost unrecognizable. Guilt? She ignored it. What she didn't know was that a single moment, years later, would make this hallway scene flash before her eyes, filling her with a different kind of emotion altogether. The bell rang, echoing down the corridor as Claire walked away from the scene, her heart pounding. She would never admit it, but the way Lily looked at her, the silent endurance, left a knot in her stomach that refused to unravel. Home wasn't any better. The big, sterile house with its polished floors and expensive paintings felt colder than the school halls. Claire's parents, successful and distant, often spoke in expectations and achievements, not in warmth or encouragement. "Claire, your grades better improve before the end of this semester." Her father's voice cut through dinner that night, eyes not lifting from the papers he was reviewing. "Yes, Dad," Claire mumbled, the taste of her food turning bland. She glanced at her mother, who nodded absent-mindedly, her attention fixed on her phone. She swallowed the rest of her meal in silence, wondering if anyone ever truly saw her. Lily sat by the window in her small room, fingers tracing the edges of her notebook. The school day replayed in her mind, each word Claire spoke still heavy in her chest. But anger wasn't there, only sadness. She closed her eyes, remembering the stories her grandmother told her about kindness. It's like planting a seed. You never know when it will bloom. Despite everything, Lily chose to believe in those seeds, even if the soil seemed barren. She reached for her pen and began to sketch a tree, branches reaching out, strong and resilient, like she wanted to be. The day of the talent show arrived, buzzing with excitement and nerves. Claire, as always, stood at the center of attention, her friends praising her without question. But when Lily stepped on stage to perform her song, a heartfelt piece she'd worked on for months, Claire couldn't resist. A whisper, a giggle, and soon the crowd joined in, stifling laughs that echoed louder than the music. Lily's hands trembled, but she kept going, her voice wavering yet steady. The song ended, applause scattered awkwardly among whispers. Claire smirked, but as Lily met her gaze for a fleeting moment, Claire felt something break inside, a flicker of regret she didn't understand. "Nice one, Claire," a friend said, nudging her. Claire nodded, but the tightness in her throat didn't leave. The end of the school year brought the long-anticipated summer party at the biggest house in town. Claire arrived with her friends, dressed to impress, ready to maintain her social throne. Music thumped through the air as students mingled, laughter spilling over like the drinks in their hands. Claire made her rounds, accepting compliments and offering sharp-tongued jokes that kept everyone entertained. But when the air turned sticky and a spilled drink ruined Claire's dress, the laughter turned awkward. Embarrassment flooded her face as she searched for napkins, but the sea of onlookers did nothing but watch. Before she could recover, a soft voice broke through the tension. "Here, use this." Claire blinked as Lily stepped forward, offering her a small towel. Her eyes were as calm and kind as ever, as if the last year of taunts and humiliation hadn't left a mark. Claire hesitated, staring at the girl she'd made suffer, now extending kindness. The room seemed to freeze as Claire's fingers brushed the towel. For a moment, it felt like the world had turned upside down. "Thanks," Claire whispered, the word foreign in her mouth. Days passed, but that single act of kindness from Lily stayed with Claire. She found herself replaying it when the noise of school quieted down and she was left with only her thoughts. Every glance at Lily in the hallway brought a new discomfort, not because of contempt, but guilt that gnawed at her insides. One afternoon, Claire spotted Lily sitting alone under the old oak tree behind the school, sketching in her notebook. The sight stirred a strange ache in Claire's chest, one she tried to dismiss. She pushed herself to walk away, but her feet stayed rooted. A classmate's voice snapped her out of it. "Claire, you're zoning out." She forced a smile, tossing her hair as she turned away, but inside, the old certainty wavered. The change wasn't easy. It was one thing to feel guilt, but it was another to show it. Claire tried to act the same, laugh the same, but her jokes felt hollow, even to her. Friends noticed, nudging her with comments like, "What's up with you lately?" At a weekend get-together, when the conversation shifted to teasing another girl, Claire felt her chest tighten. The laughter didn't echo the way it used to. It grated against her nerves. "Enough," she snapped suddenly, the room falling silent. "What's your problem, Claire?" one of her friends said, eyes wide. Claire's throat felt dry. "Just lay off, okay?" Whispers spread as Claire walked out. The old, confident version of her was starting to crumble, and she didn't know what would emerge from its ashes. Monday came with its usual chaos, but something in Claire had shifted. She no longer felt at ease in her group, the laughter and sharp comments cutting into her. The whispers about her sudden change followed her through the hallways, but she ignored them, her gaze drawn more and more toward Lily. That afternoon, Claire sat alone on a bench at the edge of the soccer field, away from the crowds. Lily passed by, her sketchbook tucked under her arm, pausing as their eyes met. An awkward silence hung between them before Claire spoke, her voice lower than usual. "Thanks for what you did at the party," Claire said, staring at the ground. The admission felt raw, scraping against the walls of her pride. Lily tilted her head, a small smile breaking the tension. "It was nothing." Claire's eyes met Lily's, searching for signs of resentment or mockery, but found only genuine kindness. The silence stretched out again, but this time it felt different, lighter. It was the first step, the first wall chipped away. As days turned into weeks, Claire took tentative steps toward change. She spoke less, observed more, and the cruel jokes that once defined her started to die away. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't perfect. Some classmates rolled their eyes at her attempts, whispering behind her back. She wanted to snap, to defend herself, but Lily's voice from across the hallway always seemed to calm the storm inside her. One afternoon, Claire overheard a conversation. A group of girls were talking about Lily, recounting her kindness and patience despite everything. They didn't know Claire was listening, but their words struck her hard. "Did you know Lily visits the retirement home every week? She never talks about it, but she's there all the time," one girl said. Claire felt a strange mix of shame and awe. The more she learned, the smaller she felt. Claire's curiosity eventually led her to ask around, piecing together Lily's life in snippets. She discovered Lily's mother had passed away when she was young, and her father worked long hours to support them. The act of kindness at the party wasn't an isolated moment. It was who Lily was. A wave of guilt washed over Claire. All those times she'd mocked Lily, not knowing the quiet battles she faced. Determined, Claire approached Lily during lunch. "Can we talk?" she asked, voice trembling slightly. Lily looked up, eyes wide with surprise. "Of course." They sat outside under the same oak tree where Lily always drew. The leaves whispered in the breeze as Claire took a breath. "I'm sorry," she said, the words heavy but freeing, "for everything." Lily studied her for a moment, the silence stretching. Then she nodded, eyes softening. "I know," she whispered. It was forgiveness without conditions, and it broke something open in Claire that she didn't know she'd been holding shut. Claire's apology wasn't the end, but the beginning. With Lily's quiet acceptance, Claire began to change not just in moments, but in habits. She defended others when cruel jokes surfaced, stood up when she might have stayed silent, and found herself drawing inspiration from the very person she once hurt. Yet, doubts crept in. Did people truly believe her? Was this all for show? The whispers about her act continued, and one day, Claire confronted Lily. "Why did you help me that night at the party?" she asked, frustration and uncertainty boiling over. Lily smiled, small and sincere. "Because everyone deserves a chance to change." The simplicity of her words silenced Claire's doubts, and for the first time she believed she could be more than just the mean girl. The school year neared its end, and with it came the annual assembly, a mix of awards, speeches, and farewells. Claire stood at the back, hands clenched, watching as teachers and students celebrated achievements. She glanced at Lily, who sat with a small smile, quietly clapping for others. The memory of her own cruelty weighed heavily, but today felt different. When the principal called for a moment of reflection and any volunteer speakers, Claire felt her heart pound. It was now or never. She took a deep breath and stood, the sound of the chair scraping the floor drawing eyes in her direction. A murmur rippled through the crowd as she walked up to the stage. "I know this is unusual," Claire began, her voice shaking but growing stronger, "but I need to say something. To everyone, but especially to someone I've hurt more than anyone else. Lily." Gasps and whispers filled the auditorium, but Claire pressed on. "For a long time, I let my own insecurities and pain turn me into someone I'm not proud of. I made people laugh at the expense of others, at the expense of someone kind, someone who didn't deserve it. Lily, I'm sorry." The room fell silent, the weight of her words pressing down. Claire's eyes met Lily's across the room, glistening with unshed tears. For a heartbeat, time seemed to pause. Then Lily nodded, her smile breaking like the first rays of morning sun. After the assembly, students swarmed out, the atmosphere electric with talk of Claire's speech. Claire waited near the doors, pulse quickening when Lily walked up to her. They stood face to face, the air thick with unspoken words. "That was brave," Lily said, breaking the silence. "Thank you." "I mean it," Claire said, voice steady now. "I'm trying to change." Lily's eyes shone with understanding. "I know, and I believe you." It was simple, but those 4 words carried more weight than any applause Claire had ever received. They stood there, 2 girls who had walked different paths but now stood at the same place, a place of forgiveness and new beginnings. High school ended, and life moved forward. Claire pursued psychology, driven by a desire to understand the complexity of people and their actions. Lily followed her passion for art, attending an esteemed college where she brought stories to life through her drawings. They stayed in touch, exchanging updates, sharing moments of growth and struggle. Every time Claire felt herself slipping back into old habits or self-doubt, she remembered Lily's quiet strength and the second chance she had been given. It anchored her, reminding her that transformation wasn't a single moment, but a continuous journey. 10 years passed, and the school reunion arrived. Claire stepped into the familiar halls, memories flooding back, both good and painful. She had prepared herself for the questions, the looks, and the stories, but what she hadn't anticipated was the ripple effect of that one moment years ago. "Claire, right?" A former classmate approached, smiling. "I remember that speech you gave. It inspired me to reconnect with an old friend I'd wronged. Changed everything for me." The words made Claire's chest tighten with emotion. She looked across the room and saw Lily chatting animatedly with a group of friends, her laugh unchanged and genuine. When their eyes met, Lily raised her glass in a silent toast. Claire mirrored the gesture, a smile spreading across her face. It was a testament to the power of kindness, the courage to change, and the strength of forgiveness. The reunion passed, but the connection it reignited between Claire and Lily grew stronger. They began meeting up, sharing stories of their pasts and current lives, building a friendship forged not just in forgiveness but in mutual respect. Conversations that once would have been impossible now felt natural. One afternoon, as they sat in a cozy cafe surrounded by the bustle of life, Claire shared something she'd kept close. "You know, I used to hate seeing you so unaffected. It was like nothing could touch you, not even me." She paused, looking down at her coffee. "I realize now it wasn't that you didn't feel it. You just chose to be stronger." Lily nodded, her expression gentle. "Strength isn't about not feeling. It's about feeling everything and choosing how to respond. The silence that followed was warm, comfortable, a testament to how far they'd come. Claire's career in psychology took off as she began working in youth counseling, using her past to guide others through their struggles. She held workshops on self-worth and the effects of bullying, her honesty resonating with those who had faced similar pain. Each session reminded her of her journey and the impact that compassion and a second chance could have. One day, she invited Lily to speak at an event about resilience and kindness. Nervous but excited, they stood before a room of young faces, sharing their intertwined story. Claire spoke first, recounting her mistakes and the guilt that followed her. "But this story isn't just about regret," she said, glancing at Lily. "It's about what happens when someone chooses kindness in the face of cruelty." Lily stepped forward, a small, reassuring smile on her face. "It's about believing that people can change and understanding that we all have a chance to be better." The audience's reaction was palpable. Tears, smiles, nods of understanding. Their story was no longer just theirs. It belonged to everyone who ever needed hope for change. Months later, Claire received a letter from a former student who had attended one of their talks. The girl wrote about how she had been in a similar situation, bullied, and left feeling unseen. But after hearing Claire and Lily's story, she found the courage to forgive and build her confidence. "Your story gave me the strength to be kind when it was hardest," the letter read. Claire felt a warmth spread through her, the familiar ache of bittersweet memory now tempered by hope. "This is why we do this," she said to Lily as they read the letter together. Lily's eyes shone, and she nodded. "It's all worth it," Lily replied softly. The years continued to roll on, bringing new challenges and joys. Claire and Lily's friendship became an unbreakable bond, a living testament to their journey. They celebrated each milestone: Claire's marriage, Lily's first gallery exhibition, and leaned on each other in hard times. One evening, Claire stood in her living room, a photograph in her hands. It was of them in high school, taken after that pivotal assembly where she'd apologized. The expressions on their faces told a story of two girls on the cusp of something life-changing. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Claire whispered as Lily walked up behind her, peering at the picture. "Yes," Lily said with a laugh, "I can." And in that moment, surrounded by memories and dreams yet to come, Claire knew that the power of kindness had given them both the gift of a life rebuilt, richer and more meaningful than either of them could have imagined. The years flowed by, marked by the stories and lessons Claire and Lily shared with the people around them. Their message of compassion started to ripple beyond just the youth they mentored. Other schools and organizations began inviting them to share their journey, and the story of forgiveness, friendship, and change started to take on a life of its own. One day, Claire received an invitation to speak at a major conference on mental health and well-being. She and Lily traveled to the city, nervous but excited. Standing before an audience filled with people of all ages, teachers, counselors, students, and parents, Claire felt the familiar flutter of anticipation in her chest. She looked at Lily, who gave her an encouraging nod. "Today, I want to talk about choices," Claire began, her voice clear and unwavering. "The choice to be cruel, the choice to be kind, and the choice to change." She paused, letting the words sink in. "My friend here taught me that one small act of compassion can have a profound impact. It can turn an enemy into an ally, a mistake into a lesson, and a life defined by regret into one defined by hope." Lily stepped forward, her voice soft but strong. "We all have that power within us, to offer kindness, even when it's not easy. And in that act, we don't just change others, we change ourselves." Applause broke out, a standing ovation echoing through the hall as Claire and Lily exchanged a smile. They had come full circle, from that high school hallway to the world stage, carrying the message they had both learned the hard way. Claire and Lily's story started to inspire others to share their own experiences. They received emails and letters from people who had found the courage to forgive, to apologize, and to stand up for those who needed kindness. The stories varied, but the theme was always the same: the transformative power of empathy. They began a small organization that focused on school programs to teach kindness, resilience, and the importance of understanding one another. Students who had once sat in silence now stood up to support their peers, changing the dynamics of classrooms and hallways. One day, a young girl named Mia reached out to Claire. She had been struggling with bullying and wanted to help others like her. Claire invited Mia to join their program, mentoring her and guiding her through her own journey. Seeing Mia grow and inspire her classmates brought a new level of fulfillment for both Claire and Lily. One summer evening, Claire received a letter with familiar handwriting. It was from someone she hadn't heard from in years: Jessica, one of the friends she'd once shared her mean girl days with. "I watched one of your talks online," the letter began. "I never thought I'd be writing this, but hearing you talk about what we did back then and how you've changed, it made me realize that I need to change too. I'm sorry for who I was, and I'm trying to be better." Claire's eyes misted as she read the words. She shared the letter with Lily, who squeezed her hand. "It's working," Lily said, eyes bright. "The seeds are spreading." Years later, at a reunion event Claire and Lily organized for the students who had been impacted by their programs, laughter and stories filled the air. People shared their own transformations, moments of bravery, and the acts of kindness that had changed their paths. Claire stood on the makeshift stage, looking out at the crowd. Among them were old classmates, now friends, who had grown together, learning the lessons she and Lily had once struggled to grasp. She caught sight of Jessica, who waved and smiled warmly, the past long forgiven and the present full of promise. "Thank you all for being here," Claire said. "This is more than just our story now. It's yours, too. It's proof that no matter where we start, we can all choose to make a difference." The cheers and applause were more than just noise. They were a testament to resilience, redemption, and the enduring impact of kindness. The reunion event was a success, but it left Claire thinking about the countless stories yet to be told and the potential for even more growth. One evening, as she sat by her window, the city lights twinkling like stars, Claire reflected on the path she had taken, from the mean girl who needed power to the woman who now found strength in helping others. It was a journey she never thought she'd make, one that was only possible because someone had believed in her when she didn't believe in herself. Lily called that night, her voice warm and familiar. "I was thinking," she said, "what if we expand our program to other cities? There's so much more we can do." Claire smiled, feeling that familiar rush of excitement. "I was hoping you'd say that." Over the next few months, they worked tirelessly, coordinating with schools and communities in different cities. The program grew, gaining attention and support. They held workshops, storytelling events, and mentorship programs, all centered on the message that had defined their lives: kindness could transform anyone, at any time. One day, Claire received an unexpected visitor at her office. It was Mrs. Thompson, their old high school teacher who had retired years ago. She looked older, but her eyes were just as sharp and kind as Claire remembered. "I've been hearing about all the amazing things you and Lily have been doing," Mrs. Thompson said, her voice tinged with pride. "I always knew you had it in you, Claire." Claire felt a lump form in her throat. The woman who had seen through her facade, who had subtly encouraged her to be better without judgment, stood before her, witnessing the fruits of her labor. "Thank you," Claire said, emotion cracking her voice. "You were one of the first to believe in me." Mrs. Thompson smiled, a twinkle in her eye. "It wasn't hard. You just needed to see it for yourself." While Claire had been thriving in her role as a counselor and public speaker, Lily's art began gaining recognition. Her drawings, deeply emotional and layered with meaning, told the story of resilience and forgiveness. A gallery reached out, requesting a collection that would showcase her work. The night of the gallery opening was a testament to how far she had come. Paintings lined the walls, each depicting different moments of their shared journey. A hallway filled with whispers, an oak tree bathed in afternoon light, and the moment Claire reached out to make peace. Claire stood beside Lily as guests admired the artwork. A couple approached, pointing at a painting that showed Lily offering Claire a towel at the fateful party. "This one," the woman said, tears in her eyes. "It speaks to forgiveness like nothing I've seen." Lily looked at Claire, a smile forming on her lips. "That moment changed everything for me," Claire said softly, as if speaking to herself. News of their program reached broader audiences, drawing attention from media and community leaders. Claire and Lily were invited to speak on radio shows and podcasts, their story inspiring people who had never met them but found pieces of themselves in the tale. Messages poured in from across the country, stories of people who had chosen kindness over retaliation, compassion over silence. One day, Claire received a call from an influential organization that wanted to honor her and Lily with an award for community impact. The ceremony was grander than anything they'd imagined, attended by people who believed in what they stood for. "To think, this all started in a high school hallway," Claire said in her acceptance speech, looking at Lily, who stood beside her with tears in her eyes. "It goes to show that even the hardest moments can lead to something beautiful." Years later, the program had reached thousands, with chapters in cities Claire and Lily had once only dreamed of. They received updates from coordinators about new initiatives led by students inspired by their story, kindness clubs, anonymous acts of support, and peer mentorship programs. One email stood out. It was from Mia, the girl Claire had once mentored. Now, grown and leading her own chapter, Mia wrote about how Claire and Lily's story had changed her life and countless others. "It's like watching a garden bloom," she wrote. "You never know how far one seed of kindness will spread." Claire read the email aloud to Lily one evening, both of them sitting under the same oak tree from their high school days, now older but wiser. The wind rustled the leaves, and for a moment everything was quiet. "We did it," Claire whispered, the weight of years washing over her. "We're still doing it," Lily replied with a smile. The organization continued to thrive, and soon new voices joined Claire and Lily in spreading their message. Young people who had grown up listening to their story took on leadership roles, each bringing fresh perspectives and experiences to the movement. One of them was a young man named Raj, whose story mirrored Claire's in unexpected ways. Raj had once been the bully in his own school. He found Claire and Lily's story online when he was at his lowest, burdened with regret and unsure of how to make amends. Inspired by their journey, he reached out to the organization and began working with them to share his own story of change. "Your story saved me," Raj told Claire during one of their planning meetings. "It gave me the courage to apologize and start over." Claire's eyes welled up with tears as she reached across the table to take his hand. "You're proof that kindness isn't just one moment. It's something that can ripple outward, changing lives we never even see." With the addition of new leaders like Raj, the program expanded internationally. Schools and communities in different parts of the world began implementing kindness initiatives based on Claire and Lily's teachings. Claire and Lily found themselves traveling to places they'd never imagined, speaking to audiences who understood their story without needing translation. In a small school in India, Raj led a workshop, his voice steady and filled with emotion as he recounted his own journey. Claire and Lily watched from the sidelines, pride swelling in their hearts. They saw the light in the children's eyes, the way they whispered to each other and nodded along, already thinking of ways they could show kindness. "This is bigger than us now," Lily whispered, her voice barely audible over the murmur of the room. Claire nodded, knowing it was true. Years of work had shown Claire and Lily that their story had inspired countless others, but it wasn't until they received an invitation to a global conference on education and social change that they truly saw the extent of their impact. Scholars, educators, and community leaders from across the world gathered to share their own stories and initiatives inspired by the kindness movement. An elderly woman from Japan approached them, her translator at her side. "My grandson was bullied," she said through the translator, tears brimming in her eyes. "But he heard your story, and it gave him the courage to forgive and make friends. He started his own kindness club in his school." Claire felt her heart swell, the emotion almost overwhelming. It was easy to forget in the day-to-day work just how far their reach had extended. "Thank you for telling us," Lily said, her voice full of gratitude. "It means everything to know that our story is still helping others." As time passed, Claire and Lily found themselves mentoring a new generation of leaders who were ready to take the reins. They began to step back from the day-to-day operations, focusing more on guiding and supporting those who would continue their work. Raj and Mia, along with others they had inspired, became the faces of the movement. "It's strange, isn't it?" Claire said one evening as they sat on the porch of Lily's house, sipping tea and watching the sunset. "Letting go, even a little." Lily nodded, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the sky. "It is, but it's also beautiful. We planted the seeds, and now we get to watch the forest grow." Claire smiled, feeling the truth in those words. They had come so far, from high school hallways and whispered apologies to a worldwide movement that had touched countless lives. And while their active roles might shift, the heart of their story, one of change, compassion, and the power of kindness, would live on. The world had changed, but the essence of Claire and Lily's story remained the same, that compassion could shift the course of a life. Raj, Mia, and the growing team of new leaders took over the organization's global operations. Their fresh ideas and relentless passion propelled the movement further, reaching places where Claire and Lily could only dream of years before. Claire and Lily watched as schools in South America, Europe, Africa, and Asia shared their stories on social media, tagging the original organization and sending heartfelt messages of gratitude. Videos of children performing acts of kindness in their communities became viral sensations. The movement had become a symbol of hope and resilience. One day, Raj and Mia approached Claire and Lily with an ambitious idea: an international summit to celebrate the stories of those who had been inspired by the movement and to share new strategies for spreading kindness. Claire and Lily exchanged a look, pride and excitement mirrored in their eyes. "It's time," Lily said, a smile curving her lips. "Let's do it." The summit was planned for the following year and drew attention from leaders, educators, and changemakers worldwide. Held in a vast conference center, the space was filled with photos and murals depicting moments of kindness. A large stage at the front displayed the simple yet powerful words, "One act can change everything." Claire stood backstage, her heart racing as she listened to the crowd chatter and laugh, the energy palpable. Lily reached out and squeezed her hand, eyes bright with the same excitement. "We started here," Claire whispered, looking out at the room filled with thousands. "In these stories, in these moments. And now they're taking it further than we ever could," Lily said with a smile. Speakers shared their journeys, some heart-wrenching, others joyful, all tied together by a single thread of kindness. When it was Claire and Lily's turn to take the stage, the room erupted into applause. Claire took a moment to let it wash over her, the echoes of past mistakes and triumphs merging into a singular moment of peace. "Years ago," Claire began, "I stood in a hallway where my words and actions brought pain. But that hallway is now a symbol of something greater. Today, we stand here because someone chose kindness over retaliation. This summit is a testament to that power." The summit concluded with an emotional presentation of the Kindness Legacy Award, an honor given to Claire and Lily for their foundational work and the impact they had made. Raj and Mia presented it to them, their eyes shining with pride. "Thank you," Raj said, looking out at the audience, "for showing us that change is always possible, and that it starts with one act." Claire and Lily accepted the award, tears in their eyes. As they stood side by side on stage, surrounded by people who had been touched by their story, Claire whispered, "We really did it." "No," Lily replied with a grin, "we all did." Years passed, and Claire and Lily stepped further into advisory roles, watching with pride as the movement continued to evolve. New stories emerged, each one a thread in the growing tapestry of compassion. Children who had been part of the program grew up to become leaders in their communities, teachers who incorporated kindness into their classrooms, and parents who taught their kids the importance of empathy. One day, Claire sat in her garden, surrounded by the blooms she had planted over the years. A small voice called out, and she turned to see her granddaughter running toward her, holding a piece of paper. "Grandma, look! I drew a picture of the tree from your stories," the little girl said, beaming. It was the oak tree, sketched in crayon, with two figures standing under its shade. Claire felt tears prick her eyes. "It's beautiful," she whispered, pulling her granddaughter into a hug. She glanced over at Lily, who sat nearby with her own grandchildren playing around her, and they shared a smile full of knowing. The seeds of kindness they had planted long ago had grown into a forest, rooted in every story told, every life touched, and every new seed planted. And so, the story of two girls, once separated by anger and pain, continued on, not just in their lives, but in the lives of generations to come. Decades after their story first began, Claire and Lily's legacy was stronger than ever. The Kindness Initiative, as it was now called, had offices on every continent, with leaders who carried forward their vision of compassion and change. Every year, new programs were developed, and stories from the remotest corners of the world came flooding in. Stories of transformation, of once bullied kids now leading their schools, of former bullies who had found redemption and dedicated their lives to helping others. One such story came from a boy in Brazil named Miguel. He had been known as the troublemaker in his school, quick to anger and even quicker to hurt others with his words. One day, his teacher introduced a lesson based on Claire and Lily's story, sharing videos and activities that encouraged students to reflect on their behavior. Miguel watched with folded arms, skeptical but intrigued. Days later, he found himself at a crossroads when he saw a classmate being mocked for her accent. The urge to join in was strong, but something in him held back. Instead, he walked up and said, "Hey, leave her alone." It was a small act, one that surprised even him, but it was the beginning of a shift. Miguel's story reached Claire and Lily years later when he applied to join one of their youth leader programs. As they read his application, detailing how he had gone from bully to advocate, they couldn't help but smile. The cycle of kindness was alive and well. Raj and Mia, now seasoned leaders of the movement, spearheaded new campaigns that connected different generations. These projects paired older participants, many of whom had been impacted by Claire and Lily's early work, with young leaders like Miguel. The stories of resilience and forgiveness continued to weave through new communities, strengthening the bonds between people from different backgrounds and cultures. One of the most notable projects was the Kindness Chronicles, an anthology that collected stories from around the globe, chronicling the lives changed by a simple act of compassion. Claire and Lily's story opened the book, setting the stage for the tales that followed. At the launch event for the Kindness Chronicles, Claire and Lily sat in the front row, their faces lined with age but glowing with pride. The room was filled with laughter and anticipation, people flipping through pages and pointing at stories that resonated with them. When Raj took the stage to open the event, his eyes sought out Claire and Lily in the crowd. "What started as an apology in a high school hallway grew into a movement that has reached millions," he said. "It's a reminder that no act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted." Later that evening, Claire and Lily sat outside on a terrace overlooking the city. The night was warm, and the lights below twinkled like a reflection of the stars above. Claire sighed, the sound a mix of contentment and nostalgia. "Do you ever think back to that first day?" Claire asked, her voice soft. Lily nodded, a smile playing on her lips. "All the time. It's strange how one choice can change everything." "It's not strange anymore," Claire said, turning to her friend. "It's beautiful." They sat in silence for a while, the comfort of their long friendship filling the space between them. The stories, the speeches, the endless hours of work, they had all been worth it. The oak tree they had once stood under as teenagers, uncertain and full of doubt, now stood tall in their minds, a symbol of growth and enduring strength. The world moved on, but the story of Claire and Lily remained a beacon. Schools continued to teach about the power of kindness, inspired by the tale of two girls who had chosen to rewrite their destinies. Documentaries were made, plays were performed, and new leaders rose to carry the flame. Claire and Lily's last public appearance came at a global youth conference where they spoke to thousands of young people eager to make a difference. As they stood on the stage one final time, Claire looked out at the crowd, filled with young faces full of hope and determination. "We started this journey to make amends and to find peace within ourselves," Claire said, her voice strong despite the years. "But what we found was something far greater, an endless story, written by each of you who chooses kindness over cruelty, compassion over indifference." Lily stepped forward, her smile wide and eyes shining. "This isn't just our story, it's yours now. Go write it well." The audience erupted into applause, the sound carrying through the hall like a wave of hope. Claire and Lily exchanged a final glance, knowing that while their chapter might be ending, the story of kindness would never fade. After their last public appearance, Claire and Lily found peace in the quieter moments of life. They were no longer in the limelight, but their legacy continued to grow. The Kindness Initiative thrived under the leadership of Raj, Mia, and a new wave of inspired young leaders. Stories continued to reach Claire and Lily about lives changed and communities transformed. One day, Claire sat in her study, surrounded by letters, awards, and photographs chronicling decades of work. One letter caught her attention. It was from a girl named Elena, a high school student from a small town in Spain. The letter described how Elena had stood up for a friend facing bullying and started a kindness club that had changed her school's culture. "I never thought one story could make me feel brave," Elena had written. "But yours did. Thank you for teaching me that we all have the power to be better." Claire's eyes filled with tears, her heart swelling with pride. She reached for the phone and called Lily, her voice trembling with emotion. "You need to come over. There's something I want to show you." Lily arrived within the hour, her hair now fully silver, but her eyes still bright. Claire handed her the letter, watching as her friend read it, a soft smile spreading across her face. "They keep coming, don't they?" Lily said, looking up. "They do," Claire replied. "Even after all these years, it still amazes me." They sat together in the warm afternoon light, reminiscing about their journey. The conversation flowed from their first meeting to the struggles they faced, to the joy of seeing their work take on a life of its own. "Do you remember when we thought changing ourselves would be the hardest thing we ever did?" Lily asked, a playful glint in her eyes. Claire laughed, the sound full of memories. "It was hard, but it was worth every second." Claire and Lily's grandchildren were now teenagers, full of stories and questions about their grandmother's pasts. One weekend, the two families gathered at Claire's house for a reunion, filling the rooms with laughter and chatter. The old oak tree in the backyard, a symbol that had witnessed decades of change, stood tall, its branches reaching out like arms ready to embrace. "Tell us the story again," one of the younger children called out, eyes wide with anticipation. Claire exchanged a knowing glance with Lily. "You've heard it so many times," she teased, but the kids only begged louder. Settling into chairs under the oak tree, Claire began, her voice carrying the weight of years and the lightness of love. "It started in a hallway, long before any of you were born." As the story unfolded, the children listened intently, their imaginations filling with images of teenage struggles, moments of realization, and the power of a single act of kindness. They hung on every word, absorbing the tale that had shaped not just their grandmother's lives, but the lives of countless others. After the story ended, Claire's eldest granddaughter, Ava, stood up, determination in her eyes. "I want to start a kindness club at my school," she announced, earning cheers from her cousins. Lily clapped her hands, her laughter ringing out like music. "That's the spirit, Ava. Remember, it's not just a club, it's a way of living." Claire watched the scene, her heart full to the brim. The movement had come full circle, passed down not only through programs and stories but through the love and guidance of those who believed in it. The echoes of their legacy would continue to ripple outward, carried by the young hands eager to take it further, As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the yard, Claire and Lily sat side by side in silence, watching the next generation run and play beneath the oak tree. The laughter of their grandchildren and great-grandchildren filled the air, a sound that spoke of a future where kindness was the norm, not the exception. "Do you think we did enough?" Claire asked, her voice soft and thoughtful. Lily reached out, taking Claire's hand in hers. "We did more than enough. We started a fire that will never go out." Claire squeezed Lily's hand, a tear slipping down her cheek. They sat there, content, knowing that the seeds they had planted so many years ago had grown into an unbreakable forest of compassion and hope. And so, Claire and Lily's story came to rest, not with an ending, but with an enduring legacy that would continue to inspire, grow, and transform the world for generations to come. The years continued to pass, and Claire and Lily moved into their golden years with grace. Though they no longer traveled or spoke at events, their presence was still felt in every corner of the movement they had helped create. Stories continued to pour in, detailing how acts of kindness inspired by them had changed lives in profound and unexpected ways. One day, Raj and Mia visited Claire and Lily to share an exciting update. They had started an annual Global Kindness Day celebration, recognized by schools, organizations, and communities around the world. The day would be marked with activities, workshops, and events focused on sharing acts of kindness and reflecting on how one small gesture could ripple out to touch countless lives. "It's happening next month," Raj said, eyes gleaming with excitement. "And we'd love for you two to make a video message for everyone participating. It would mean the world to them." Claire and Lily exchanged looks, their smiles deep and knowing. "We'd love to," Claire said. On the day of the recording, Claire and Lily sat in their shared office, surrounded by photos and memorabilia from their decades of work. The camera crew set up quickly, but the atmosphere was warm and familiar. When the red light blinked on, Claire took a deep breath. "Hello to everyone celebrating Global Kindness Day," she began, her voice rich with years of experience and warmth. "We're so proud of each and every one of you for carrying this message forward." Lily leaned in, her eyes sparkling. "Remember, kindness isn't just for today. It's a choice you make every day, one that changes not only the lives of others, but your own." The recording ended with the two women holding hands, their smiles as vibrant as they had been years ago. The message was broadcast to millions, played in classrooms, town squares, and community centers, inspiring countless people to take a moment and think about how they could bring kindness into their own lives. One morning, Claire and Lily were surprised by a knock at the door. When they opened it, they were greeted by a group of people they hadn't seen in years. Former students, teachers, and even Jessica, Claire's old friend from high school. "We wanted to visit and thank you in person," Jessica said, her voice choked with emotion. "You started something that changed all of our lives." The group spent the day reminiscing, laughing, and sharing stories of how kindness had shaped their paths. Jessica spoke about how she'd found her way back to herself, inspired by Claire's transformation. Former students who had been part of the first kindness clubs shared how they'd gone on to lead initiatives in their careers and communities. "You both showed us that it's never too late to be better," one of the visitors said, "and that's a lesson we've passed on to our own children." As the years rolled on, Claire and Lily's health began to slow them down. They knew that their time as the faces of the movement was drawing to a close. Raj and Mia organized a grand event to formally pass the torch to the new generation of leaders, ensuring that Claire and Lily could see firsthand how their legacy would continue. At the ceremony, Claire and Lily sat on a beautifully decorated stage, surrounded by friends, family, and colleagues. Raj stepped up to the microphone, his voice steady but full of emotion. "Today, we honor the two women who taught us that kindness has no boundaries and that redemption is always possible," he said. "Claire and Lily, your story began in a high school hallway, but it didn't end there. It has become a part of millions of stories around the world." The audience rose to their feet, the applause thundering through the air. Claire and Lily exchanged a tearful glance, overwhelmed by the love and gratitude that filled the room. In their final years, Claire and Lily spent most days together, sitting in the garden, reading letters from around the world, and reflecting on their journey. The movement continued to flourish, with new leaders taking their story to places they had never imagined. One sunny afternoon, Claire looked up at the oak tree, now towering over the yard, its branches strong and full of life. "We planted this, didn't we?" she said, her voice soft and filled with awe. Lily reached for her friend's hand and squeezed it gently. "We did, and it's going to keep growing long after we're gone." And so, surrounded by the echoes of laughter, love, and the stories they had inspired, Claire and Lily's journey came full circle. They had started as a tale of forgiveness and kindness, and now they were a part of an unending story, one that would continue to ripple through time, changing the world one act at a time. Global Kindness Day became an annual tradition, celebrated with even greater enthusiasm each year. The movement that Claire and Lily had inspired now spanned generations, with each iteration adding new stories and initiatives. From kindness challenges in schools to community outreach programs, the spirit of compassion spread like wildfire. One day, Claire received a letter from a young girl named Layla in Kenya. Layla wrote about how she had started a kindness initiative in her village, organizing food drives and tutoring sessions for younger children. "Your story reached us here," she wrote, "and it taught me that no act is too small to make a difference." Claire shared the letter with Lily, who read it with teary eyes. "We've touched places we've never even seen," Lily said, marveling at how far their story had reached. "It's amazing, isn't it?" Claire replied. "We set out to make peace with our past, and now it's shaping the future." Raj, Mia, and the new generation of leaders organized a special tribute to celebrate Claire and Lily's contribution to the world. It was not just a recognition event, but a global celebration that included participants from every corner of the world. Videos of acts of kindness were streamed live, with stories shared by people who had been impacted by the movement. The main event was held in the city where it all began, with banners lining the streets and murals depicting scenes from Claire and Lily's journey. The entire town turned out, from elderly neighbors who remembered their high school days to young children who had grown up learning about kindness through their programs. As Claire and Lily arrived, the crowd erupted into cheers. People held signs that read, "Thank you," and "You changed my life." It was overwhelming, but in the best possible way. Raj took the stage, his voice filled with emotion. "Today, we don't just celebrate these two incredible women. We celebrate everyone who has chosen kindness because of them. Claire and Lily, you have shown us that it's never too late to change, and that one act can indeed change everything." Claire and Lily stood up, hands clasped together. The audience quieted as Claire took a deep breath and spoke. "When we first started on this journey, we had no idea where it would lead. We just knew that kindness was powerful and that it had the potential to transform even the most broken of places," Claire said. "But seeing all of you here today, hearing your stories, it makes everything worth it. This movement belongs to all of us now." Lily smiled, her eyes scanning the sea of faces, young and old. "Remember that every kind act matters. Keep planting those seeds and watch how they grow." The days after the celebration were filled with a flood of letters and messages. Some came from people who had met Claire and Lily in their early days. Others were from those who had only recently discovered their story. A message from a teacher in South Korea described how Claire and Lily's video had helped a student overcome the trauma of bullying and start helping others in similar situations. There was even a letter from an elderly man in Germany who wrote about how, after watching one of their documentaries, he reconciled with his estranged brother. "You reminded me that there is always time for forgiveness," he wrote. Claire read these letters with awe. Each story was a testament to the movement's lasting impact. Every word reinforced that what had started as a simple attempt to make amends had turned into a global call to action. One afternoon, Claire and Lily sat in Claire's sunroom, sipping tea and flipping through a scrapbook filled with mementos. Photographs of their younger selves, Newspaper clippings and handwritten thank you notes filled the pages. "Do you think the world will remember us?" Claire asked, a wistful note in her voice. Lily chuckled softly. "The world might not remember us, but they will remember the idea. Kindness will carry on, even if our names fade." Claire nodded, a smile tugging at her lips. "That's all that really matters, isn't it?" "Yes," Lily said, her eyes soft with understanding. "It's all that ever mattered." As Claire and Lily grew older, they focused on mentoring the next generation. They shared stories, offered guidance, and supported new leaders as they continued to expand the kindness movement. One day, Raj visited them with a special project, a book titled The Seeds We Planted, the story of Claire, Lily, and the kindness movement. It was filled with stories, illustrations, and essays from people around the world who had been touched by their work. "This is for you," Raj said, placing the book in their hands. "It's a record of what you've built." Claire's hands trembled as she flipped through the pages, tears spilling down her cheeks. "We did this," she whispered, looking at Lily, "and so much more." Lily placed a hand over Claire's, squeezing gently. "It's the legacy we always hoped for." Claire and Lily's days were filled with peace, surrounded by family, friends, and the echoes of the lives they had touched. The Kindness Initiative continued to flourish, with new projects and leaders adding their voices to the ever-growing story. The oak tree in Claire's yard stood taller than ever, its branches swaying in the breeze, a living monument to their journey. And as the sun set one last time on an era defined by two girls who chose to change, the world kept moving, propelled by the simple, unwavering truth that had started it all. Kindness changes everything. Years blended into one another, and Claire and Lily's influence had taken on a life of its own. The Kindness Initiative was now a well-oiled network, with thousands of chapters in countries all over the world. It had become part of school curriculums, workplace training programs, and community projects. The movement was as much a part of people's lives as the stories passed down from one generation to the next. One morning, Claire sat in her living room surrounded by her grandchildren. They were making decorations for the upcoming Global Kindness Day. Ava, now a young woman, led the group, her voice full of passion as she shared stories of how kindness had changed the lives of people she knew. "Grandma, do you think we'll ever run out of stories to tell?" one of the younger grandchildren asked, looking up from his drawing. Claire smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "No, sweetheart. There will always be more stories because there will always be people who choose kindness." One afternoon, Lily received a call from Raj. He wanted to bring a group of new leaders to meet Claire and Lily and hear their story firsthand. The next week, their house was bustling with young people, full of ideas and hope. "We've heard so much about you," a young woman named Sarah said, her eyes wide with admiration. "I can't believe we're here, learning from the founders of it all." Lily laughed lightly, the sound warm and familiar. "We were just two girls trying to do the right thing," she said. "The real heroes are all of you who keep this going." The visit lasted the whole day, filled with questions, stories, and laughter. Claire and Lily shared memories from their earliest days, moments that had shaped them, and lessons they'd learned. By the end, the young leaders left with a renewed sense of purpose. "We won't let you down," Raj said before they left, his voice steady with conviction. "We know," Claire replied, her smile reflecting the confidence she felt in their legacy. The stories shared that day sparked a new idea. The young leaders launched an offshoot of the Kindness Initiative called the Kindness Chronicles, where people from around the world could submit their personal stories of transformation and kindness. These stories were then shared online, in podcasts, and in published collections, creating a global network of inspiration. Claire and Lily watched as the first collection of stories was released. It featured tales of people who had found courage, changed their lives, and spread kindness in ways large and small. The stories spoke of forgiveness, resilience, and hope, echoes of Claire and Lily's journey that had taken on new life. "This is more than we could have ever imagined," Lily said as she watched a video of a young girl in Japan reading her story aloud, inspiring her classmates. It's exactly what we hoped for, Claire replied, wiping a tear from her eye. Global Kindness Day became a tradition that even world leaders embraced, with speeches and commitments to better policies and programs that promoted empathy and cooperation. Ava, now an adult and one of the key figures in the movement, stood on stage during one such event. She spoke of her grandmother and the friend who had started it all. "My grandmother taught me that kindness isn't just a word. It's an action, a choice, and sometimes the hardest thing you'll ever do, but it's always worth it," Ava said, looking out at the audience with determination. Claire and Lily watched from home, surrounded by their families. The sight of Ava speaking to the world about their shared beliefs filled them with pride and peace. They exchanged a look, a silent acknowledgement of everything they had achieved and how it would continue long after they were gone. In their last days, Claire and Lily knew that their time was drawing to a close. The world was still full of stories, but their chapter was nearing its end. One evening, they sat in Claire's garden under the oak tree, now massive and strong, its branches intertwined with memories. "We've done well, haven't we?" Claire whispered, her voice tinged with both sadness and satisfaction. "Better than we ever could have imagined," Lily replied, reaching out to take Claire's hand. Ava walked out to join them, holding a book in her hands, a special edition of The Seeds We Planted, filled with new stories and reflections. She read passages aloud as the sun dipped below the horizon, the light casting a golden glow across their faces. "This is for you, for everything you've given us," Ava said, her voice breaking with emotion. Claire and Lily listened, the warmth of family and the legacy they had built surrounding them. They knew that while they might soon leave this world, the story of kindness they had helped to write would continue to grow and flourish, reaching places they had never even dreamed of. And so, as the stars began to twinkle above, the story of two girls who once stood in a high school hallway continued on, carried by every act of kindness, every choice to be better, and every seed planted by those who believed in the power of compassion. As the years passed, Claire and Lily's days were filled with warmth and quiet reflection. They no longer traveled or took part in large events, but their presence was still felt throughout the Kindness Initiative. Every Global Kindness Day, they would watch from home as people across the world celebrated the movement they had started, their hearts swelling with pride. One autumn afternoon, Claire sat by the window, a soft breeze carrying the scent of the oak tree outside. The tree had become a symbol in their town, a living monument to the power of small, intentional acts. Lily sat beside her, a blanket draped across her lap. They shared a contented silence, the bond between them stronger than ever. "I think we did it," Claire said finally, her voice warm and full of peace. Lily turned to her, eyes twinkling. "We did, and they'll keep doing it. That's the best part." In the weeks that followed, the town gathered around the oak tree to honor Claire and Lily's lives. News of their passing had reached far and wide, bringing people from different cities and even countries to pay their respects. The tree was decorated with notes and ribbons, each one carrying a message of gratitude, love, and stories of change. Ava stood under the tree, surrounded by the family and friends who had carried the movement forward. "They taught us that kindness isn't just an act, it's a legacy," she said, her voice steady even as tears threatened to fall. "And it's our duty to carry that legacy on." The crowd murmured in agreement, eyes reflecting the golden light of the late afternoon sun. In that moment, it was clear that the story of Claire and Lily hadn't ended with them. It had simply become part of everyone they had touched, a story that would continue to inspire for generations. Decades passed, but the story of Claire and Lily remained timeless. The Kindness Initiative evolved, adapting to new challenges and expanding into areas they had only dreamed of. Books were written, documentaries filmed, and new leaders emerged, each adding their voice to the chorus of kindness. Every year, on Global Kindness Day, people gathered under the oak tree in Claire and Lily's town, now a historic site. They shared stories, read letters, and spoke of how two girls who had once struggled with forgiveness and redemption had changed the world. In classrooms, children learned about Claire and Lily's journey, not as a tale of the past, but as a call to action. And with each retelling, each small act inspired by their story, the seeds they planted grew a little further, reaching new hearts and new places. The story of Claire and Lily began with pain, mistakes, and the need for redemption. It was a story of two girls whose paths intertwined in ways they never could have anticipated. What started as an apology in a high school hallway grew into a global movement that changed the lives of millions. Through their journey, they discovered that the true power of kindness was not just in the act itself, but in its ability to ripple outward, creating a legacy far greater than any single moment. Claire and Lily's transformation was a testament to the fact that change is always possible, and that one small act of compassion can set off a chain reaction that spans generations. Their legacy lived on not just in the programs and initiatives they founded, but in every story, every classroom discussion, and every act of kindness that was inspired by their courage to be better. And so, as the stars began to twinkle above, the story of two girls who once stood in a high school hallway continued on, carried by every act of kindness, every choice to be better, and every seed planted by those who believed in the power of compassion. As the years passed, Claire and Lily's days were filled with warmth and quiet reflection. They no longer traveled or took part in large events, but their presence was still felt throughout the Kindness Initiative. Every Global Kindness Day, they would watch from home as people across the world celebrated the movement they had started, their hearts swelling with pride. One autumn afternoon, Claire sat by the window, a soft breeze carrying the scent of the oak tree outside. The tree had become a symbol in their town, a living monument to the power of small, intentional acts. Lily sat beside her, a blanket draped across her lap. They shared a contented silence, the bond between them stronger than ever. "I think we did it," Claire said finally, her voice warm and full of peace. Lily turned to her, eyes twinkling. "We did, and they'll keep doing it. That's the best part." In the weeks that followed, the town gathered around the oak tree to honor Claire and Lily's lives. News of their passing had reached far and wide, bringing people from different cities and even countries to pay their respects. The tree was decorated with notes and ribbons, each one carrying a message of gratitude, love, and stories of change. Ava stood under the tree, surrounded by the family and friends who had carried the movement forward. "They taught us that kindness isn't just an act, it's a legacy," she said, her voice steady even as tears threatened to fall. "And it's our duty to carry that legacy on." The crowd murmured in agreement, eyes reflecting the golden light of the late afternoon sun. In that moment, it was clear that the story of Claire and Lily hadn't ended with them. It had simply become part of everyone they had touched, a story that would continue to inspire for generations. Decades passed, but the story of Claire and Lily remained timeless. The Kindness Initiative evolved, adapting to new challenges and expanding into areas they had only dreamed of. Books were written, documentaries filmed, and new leaders emerged, each adding their voice to the chorus of kindness. Every year, on Global Kindness Day, people gathered under the oak tree in Claire and Lily's town, now a historic site. They shared stories, read letters, and spoke of how two girls who had once struggled with forgiveness and redemption had changed the world. In classrooms, children learned about Claire and Lily's journey, not as a tale of the past, but as a call to action. And, with each retelling, each small act inspired by their story, the seeds they planted grew a little further, reaching new hearts and new places. The story of Claire and Lily began with pain, mistakes, and the need for redemption. It was a story of two girls whose paths intertwined in ways they never could have anticipated. What started as an apology in a high school hallway grew into a global movement that changed the lives of millions. Through their journey, they discovered that the true power of kindness was not just in the act itself, but in its ability to ripple outward, creating a legacy far greater than any single moment. Claire and Lily's transformation was a testament to the fact that change is always possible, and that one small act of compassion can set off a chain reaction that spans generations. Their legacy lived on not just in the programs and initiatives they founded, but in every story, every classroom discussion, and every act of kindness that was inspired by their courage to be better. The oak tree that stood outside Claire's home became more than a symbol. It was a reminder that the seeds we plant today can grow into something far greater than we ever imagined. Claire and Lily's journey showed the world that it's never too late to choose kindness, and that no act is too small to make a difference. Their story ended as all good stories do, not with a final chapter, but with a new beginning. It became part of a greater tale that continued to be written by those who carried forward their message of compassion, forgiveness, and hope. And as long as people chose kindness, their legacy would live on, proving that the power of empathy is timeless and boundless. In the end, Claire and Lily's journey wasn't just about the past. It was a roadmap for the future, a future where kindness would forever be at the heart of the human story. Thank you for joining us in this powerful journey of Claire and Lily, a story that reminds us all of the incredible power of kindness and transformation. If this story moved you, share it with your friends and family to spread the message that one small act can create ripples of change. Now, we want to hear from you. Have you experienced or witnessed an act of kindness that made a lasting impact? Drop your stories in the comments below. Your words could inspire someone today to choose compassion over cruelty. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. And remember, it's never too late to start your own ripple of kindness. Thank you for watching, and keep spreading kindness.